to Learning Unlocked. I'm your host, Britt Bingold. As an instructional specialist in Gilbert, Arizona, I'm a total nerd when it comes to classroom strategies and educational pedagogy. Educators are the key holders to unlocking learning for students. So today, as always, my goal is to provide you with resources and tools, the keys, to enable and accelerate learning for all students. Thanks for joining me today. Let's get started. Welcome back, key holders. Before we get started today, I just wanted to do a quick reminder that if you have time, which I know you're so busy, to write us a review on Apple Podcasts, we would appreciate it. The more reviews and ratings we get, the more educators will see our podcast. So if you like what you're hearing and you think others would too, please head over and provide us a review. Welcome to episode 9 of Learning Unlocked. Today we are discussing math manipulatives and how they can be used as strategies in all learning environments through all different grade levels. And basically, how can we use more math manipulatives and more gamifying of math to really leverage that to get kids excited and engaged and ready to learn some deep math concepts. Today, my interview is with Sharon Crandall. She is the most happy person I have ever met. And you will just, I think, smile when you hear her talk about math. She loves math and her energy towards it is just contagious. And I think that's why her students probably love it so much. So here is the interview with Sharon. I hope you enjoy it. Hi, Sharon. Welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
Great. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no, it's my pleasure. I'm so excited to talk about math manipulatives with you and just manipulatives in general and how they can help students learn. But before we get to that, if you could just introduce yourself to our listeners, that would be great.
My name is Sharon Crandall, and I've been teaching in Gilbert for 22 years. Most of the time that's been in 4th grade, but I have done 5th grade and 6th grade as well. And I'm currently at Town Meadows. A few years ago, I started doing Title I math summer school, and I totally caught the math bug. And though I teach all subjects, I have a passion for math. And I love the creativity, because that's why a lot of us get into teaching, is for creativity that you can use during math. Outside of math and work and things like that, I love to bake, I love to travel, and I love to spend time with my family.
That's awesome. I mean, what you said about creativity, I think, is what drives teachers to come to the profession. And so I think sometimes when we get bogged down with scope and sequence and standards and curriculum and this and that, you kind of like, wait, but I want to be creative. So you still can be. You just have to find your way around some of those things so that way you can insert your creativity. And then I've heard you make amazing oatmeal chocolate chip cookies.
I really do. At any campus that I've been on, if they were here, they would say amen. We all have talents, and that's mine.
I love it. And then traveling. So where have you gone, and what's like your favorite spot to go?
Okay, I love, I have 2 favorite spots. I've been to Ireland, and Ireland is more beautiful than you see on TV. It's amazing. And I went on a fall foliage tour back east years ago, and that was amazing because we don't get fall foliage as much here in Arizona. So I was just amazed the whole entire time.
Where was the fall foliage? Where was this?
You start in Boston, and they take you all the way up to Maine. And it is incredible. It is the most amazing thing. There's these huge buses, and you always say, I wonder who's on those buses. And it's just a bunch of people that love colorful leaves.
Oh my gosh, I have to go. Like, I need the link. Oh, I need the link to that after we're done. Because as an Arizona native, I'm like, fall? What are you talking about? Like, so that would be so fun to take once COVID is over, to take the kids so they could go see fall leaves on this bus. That would be like so much fun.
Absolutely.
And then you're a fan of Coke Zero.
I am addicted to Coke Zero. I love it. I just was introduced to it like a year ago, and it's my new favorite thing. It makes me happy.
You know what? Whatever makes you happy. Coffee makes me happy. Sometimes I know soda makes people happy. Tea. You have to do whatever you can right now, especially in our current climate, to make you happy. So you drink your Coke, girl, and you love it. Okay. Thank you so much for introducing yourself. So let's get into the questions because I really want to dig deep and get some ideas from you from our listeners. But as a teacher of kind of the older, I guess what do we call that? The older elementary kids? Is there like a term that you
I
guys
think they
use?
say intermediate.
Oh,
Intermediate.
intermediate. That's right. Intermediate elementary kids. To me, it's like elementary. I don't know. I have a second grader. She's not there yet. So intermediate elementary kids. I think when teachers think of manipulatives or they hear the words hands on or Play Doh or anything like that, they, of older students, they automatically maybe have a positive or a negative connotation to that. I think, especially when you're like, it's virtual learning. What are you talking about? What is your response to that? Because you have the intermediate kids, excuse me. What do you think about just the hands-on approach?
I feel so strongly about this. It's such a great question because too many teachers think hands-on learning is for younger children. It's not true. I hear a lot of people say, I don't have time to use manipulatives. And I have learned my response to that is I don't have time not to use manipulatives. That's a big word. Um,
I don't. This is going to be really hard. The whole time we're going to be like, we should just call them Mannies or something.
the Manny. But using manipulatives makes abstract math concepts concrete in such a short time where they can, instead of doing this lesson again and again and again, then they're like, okay, oh, I get this because I'm moving it around and I'm seeing exactly how it's relating. And sometimes, and I was so this teacher years and years ago, I would get out my manipulatives and I would do an activity with them and then I would put them away. And you can't do that. You have to do them again and again and again so that, and you have to have them right there so they're easy to get out. And you have to have a plan for how to get them out and how to put them away. And it doesn't have to be a whole hour just because you get out the manipulatives that they're, manipulating with them. But you just have to get it down where the kids, okay, these are not toys. These are something I'm using for math. We get them out, we use them. All right, I see this. I can talk about it. And learning how to talk about what you're doing, that is the other key as well.
Do you ever have them maybe go from so they get out their stuff, they get out their manipulative box or whatever, and they start to work and they're working on the problem? Do you have them do maybe turn in talks to a partner? Do you have them do some writing maybe about what they've created first? Like, are there different ways you have them kind of interact with the manipulatives once they're done? I'm gonna struggle with this word today.
Right, it's going to be it. You know what? All of those things. And I mean, and how, like in the last few years, with Wendy Peterson talking about writing, we need to be writing, and I think you can write in math and they can talk about it, but teaching your kids knowing how to talk about math is not something that fourth graders or fifth graders, sixth graders, whatever, they don't come in knowing that. You have to teach them, okay, this is how, this is what we're going to talk about. And this is what I expect to see. I remember a year or so ago, I had this great class that was so good at it. And I remember my principal came in one day and I was so excited. I'm like, walk around and listen to what they're talking about. And he's looking at me like I'm crazy. And I'm like, no, they're not talking about recess. They're not talking about what they did last night. They're talking about what they're doing right now and they're explaining it to each other. And so that just got me so excited that I need to teach them how to do that.
Do you give them some like math stems or do you just model it for them in front of them? Or how do you get them to start talking math?
I model this is what it is, and this is what I would say. And, maybe you could even have a kid come up and you could talk about it with them. I do give them questions. I mean, they're young. They're not like thinking, I have this thought about this manipulative or about this activity that I'd like to share. You have to give them starters. And sometimes I'll write them on the board. Okay, everyone has 30 seconds. Go around the room. All right, start with the tallest kid or whatever, because that can take an hour when them deciding who's going to go first. But go around and here's, your starters and things like that. And then they learn from each other too, stuff that I walk around thinking, oh, I didn't even think of that, which is amazing.
Well, and I just love that. I mean, you have to give them training wheels. even in high school. I mean, I taught ninth grade English, and I gave them starter stems all the time in discussion, or even for writing. Sometimes I would sit down, and if they were all struggling with something, I'd be like, okay, I just can't watch you guys write any more of these paragraphs, so we're just gonna write one all together. And they would write and type with me, and I'll be up at the front, and they could see the writing process and how I struggled to craft sentences and how I would stop and think. And I think modeling is really important for students, because, and they also then see like, oh, she doesn't have, like, she can't just sit down and write a whole essay in one sitting. No, that's not the process. Like, like math is kind of that same way. You have to sometimes sit down and look at it and and talk with some other people and get some feedback. And I think that's awesome that they're able to discuss those things together. um, and when they can verbalize that, we know research shows if you can narrate and tell somebody what you're doing and teach them what you're doing, then you know what's going on.
Absolutely. And I, as a teacher, I don't need to give them a 25 um, a problem test. If I hear them explaining to their neighbor exactly what's going on, this kid has it. I mean, obviously we do assessments and things like that, or paper and pencil at times, but you don't have to every single time. If I hear them talking, these guys have it. Okay, go over here. Oh, you know what? Maybe we need to mix these groups up. These guys over here have it. These guys aren't so sure. So why don't we switch a few people, and the people that are really good at explaining, and then we kind of share the love.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you are using it also as a way to just formatively assess them and then give them immediate feedback. I mean, that is priceless. I mean, the more that teachers can verbally give that immediate feedback to kids and then they can modify and adjust themselves is huge for student learning. When you first started teaching remotely in spring, when that was fun and sprung on us, that was exciting. Um, and then I know that in the summer you did some math enrichment. Um, what made you realize the many ways you can teach math, either face to face, like all I was doing in my classroom, I can also do virtually? Because I think you did a really great job taking your face to face stuff that we were just talking about and making it virtual for kids. What did you kind of have them doing, and how did that kind of click in your mind? Like, oh, just because it's virtual doesn't mean they can't still have hands-on stuff.
Well, I will admit that at the beginning, I relied way too much on worksheets, and I figured out how to make my slide and put the worksheet in the background and be able. And then I thought, okay, I'm spending all this time, and this is not fun for them. You could see their eyes just glazing over. And here I spent 3 hours on this one worksheet to make it perfectly usable. But was it effective teaching? No, not at all. And so as I realized I'm bored, they have to be bored. And so then I started making slideshows that they could see, or as we were talking about things, that they could actually physically see it. And then I would take the WebEx, take it from share, then we would talk about it and show me. And so there was some of that, me showing them on a slideshow, as opposed to me giving them, and I dare not say this word, a teachers pay teachers, very cute little slideshow that someone had done, and then, okay, go learn on your own. Well,
Well,
that's great.
I know, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. Yeah, I think everyone did. No one, I mean, it was kind of like crisis mode, like, how long are we going to be in this mode? Like, should I keep going with what I'm doing? Like, what, I don't know how to deliver information to them. Like, so I don't think you're alone in that at all. I mean, I think people were like, what am I going to do? Because I don't know how to take what I was doing and move it. So was it during the summer then that you were like, okay, I need to do something different because like spring was a little wonky?
Oh yeah, I wish that I could say that as soon as this happened in the spring, I just jumped right in there and just became amazing. But guess what? That didn't happen. It took a while, and it took me having 10 kids that I could see all their faces and them looking at me like, oh dear, why is this woman still talking? And so it I love math, and I get so excited about math, and I think that is one of my successes, is the kids know how much I love math. If I came in there every day going, it's math time, I know math is hard, I know it's really difficult, then obviously they'd be like, oh, I hate math. But I'm so excited about it, and I try to make it fun and exciting, and then I want them as well. It is not easy. of course, when you have to like, okay, everyone mute themselves. If I have to say one more time, who's unmuted, I'm going to scream. But they mute them. Okay. All right. Unmute yourself and share, talk about this. All right. I gave all the math kids for summer school, I gave them dice and I gave them cards and I gave them all these things that they could use so that I wasn't just talking to myself. Now it's been a little bit harder. And so I have had to rely a little bit on, all right, get a piece of paper. You're going to draw this, or you're going to, and thank goodness for online manipulatives. I mean, they're amazing.
Yes, there's some amazing math online manipulatives too, as well. But I like just the paper. I love that you gave them like had them have dice. I also I like that you said that you come in with a great attitude. I mean, I can just even tell just talking to you, your passion for math just comes through. And I think that's with any subject that teachers are teaching. If you walk in that day and you're like, so today we're going to talk about the Revolutionary War. And in I mean, like, no, who wants to be in that class? I want to be in that class. But if, like, you even said you changed the name of certain things, right? Like to give things like more fun, exciting names.
Oh my gosh, if I were to say today we're going to practice multiplying our three by threes, the kids are going to be like, "Oh, this is great." But if I name a game called I Can Beat That, and they have to keep trying to do better and better, or I changed the name of something, Beat the Teacher I called it, or something like that. Just something dumb, and the kids were like, "Yeah, I can beat the teacher," you know? And it was the same thing that I had seen on a worksheet or I had seen on a math website or something, but you just give it some pizzazz and the kids are with you. They want to do it, you know?
I think that's so perfect. I love that. I mean, I know, oh, it's math. This is our math worksheet, and the kids automatically, their faces droop and they're like, oh, I have to solve all these problems. But yeah, you call it, I can beat that, or beat the teacher, or, who's up first or something like that. They're like, interest is already peaked. Plus your excited attitude. Of course they're going to be in. You have their buy-in, which is so important. And so, yeah. And then, just I think the math games are fun online, but I think a lot of students, because they're online so often throughout the day, they get a little like, ugh, I'm sick of looking at the screen. Like I even had to buy myself blue light glasses recently because like my eyes by the end of the day they were killer. I got some for my daughter, and of course now we're going back. I get blue light glasses when we go back. I work at a computer, but I got blue light glasses for her. But I'm like, this is good for even like your other screen times, like your Switch or whatever. Like you can wear these. So, okay, so that's so exciting. You've made me excited about math, and I'm an English teacher. So let's just say, woo! All right. So, okay, many households don't have those typical math manipulatives that you're talking about. So, teachers have maybe like boxes of manipulatives. Is that kind of how it is? Like, do you guys just get them with your curriculum, or how does that work?
Okay, if you were to go into my classroom right now, my math cupboard is like overflowing. I mean, it's ridiculous. And if I walk in the hallway and someone has put a pile of stuff down, they're like, "Oh, I don't want this anymore." I'm like, "I'll take that and I'll take that, I'll take that," so that the kids can just have as much as possible. I'm a little bit of a hoarder when it comes to math manipulatives. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Okay, well, you and I are growing from the same cloth because I treasure big pickup day around my neighborhood. I literally will troll around like different places and different neighborhoods that I know always tend to have nicer furniture, and that's how I built my flex seating classroom when I was in secondary. I would just or my kids actually love to play with like what we call loose parts, which more than their toys. So I'll throw out like, I know this sounds horrible, but I will like literally, I have a bunch of wine corks left over from obviously wine bottles that I used to get to drink before I had hepatitis. But they love playing with them because what we've done is I've glued on those little fuzzy balls, and I've glued those onto the top, and they play with them like little people, and they like those better than any plastic toy, and they like to create with them or like put them in different block settings. So I think sometimes we underestimate the value of somebody else's trash as treasure, and kids oftentimes see things in a really different way than we see them as adults. And they play with them in different ways too. So here's what I'm going to ask you. If you could, for me, narrow down 5 or more household items that you think would be beneficial, like a total game changer for teachers and parents and students to use when they're doing these hands-on activities during your direct instruction, what would they be and why?
Okay, I love playing cards. Playing cards, you can use them for so many things. You can use them with the kings and the queens, the face cards and things in, and make those bigger numbers. You can use them for place value. You can use them for practicing math facts. And everyone has playing cards. Dice, love dice. I have more dice than I'm embarrassed to say how many dice I have at my house and at school. 3x5 cards. You can do so much with 3x5 cards. If you don't, I mean, there's a lot of fancy math card games and card activities and stuff like that you can create yourself with just 3x5 cards. My new favorite obsession is those fat popsicle sticks. Oh my gosh, you can do so many fun activities with fat popsicle sticks for math, where you write stuff on them and you put them in a cup. And then it's really easy to store and it's easy for the kids to pull them out. Paper, you could fold it. A few years ago, I went to a paper folding class. I can't even think of the lady's name. You probably know her name. And I laughed. I thought, this woman is making a killing teaching us how to fold paper. But it's bullshit, right? Because she is folding this paper and we are all like, yes, yes. But you can use it for so many different things. And then I would say, like, colorful cereal, you can totally use as far as for placeholders or, instead of like ones, cubes, or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then masking tape, you could totally for geometry is you could do big things with masking tape, and so I do love that as well.
Or yeah, or even string. I mean, I because we didn't have the cubes last spring, I luckily just randomly had those sticker dots, like those
Ah,
Avery 4-color sticker dots. And so what I did was when we were doing measurement, I would just, because I didn't have the cubes, I would just say, okay, let's look at how many sticker dots it is, because they were about the same size. And so you kind of just have to like be creative and be like, what do I have? I love playing cards as well. I don't know if you know, but I love putting them on the desks for kids
yes.
for random calling and group. So I love that. But then I also love that you can use them in math. My husband and my daughter play war a lot with them for math facts. And that's a fun like kind of game for them to do that with. We also do like Battleship, where we use just like chart paper or like grid paper, and like I put a little thing in between us, and like we grab a card and all like we color the amount of boxes the card is. You know what I mean? And we kind of just do like kind of like a little battleship back and forth as we do like the like math facts and things like that. So I think, yeah, I mean the 3x5 cards too. I mean, where do you guys, I mean, most of this stuff is Dollar Tree easy, right? I mean, 2 packs of playing cards, I know you can get the Dollar Tree. Dice, definitely, right? 3x5 cards, paper. You can get colorful cereal anywhere, and then masking tape. And I think these are things that kids and parents would look at as not things like, oh, that's a manipulative. That's something I could use in math. Could they even take, oh, I doubt, I don't know if I should even say this. You might not like
Say
this.
it,
Okay.
say it.
All right. Let's say it. Let me think. I'm thinking like, what if they brought in, because, okay, so now we're transitioning back into school and you've got to set, well, you have a ton, so you might not have this problem. You said your cabinet is bulging.
Yeah, yes, it is.
But like they're each going to be in rows by themselves, right? But we want to make sure they still have these manipulatives to work with. Could they have their own little treasure box of math manipulatives that they bring from home that they could use for stuff like buttons or like, I don't know, just random little things that they like, like little Pokemon or little whatever those Hatchimal things are. I don't know. Like I know those are toys, but I'm trying to think of like anything around the house that they could have a certain amount of dice, obviously, and play in, and maybe a pack of playing cards or something that parents could bring to school, so that way teachers that don't have a lot of math manipulatives in their classroom can still do that, because I know a lot of times we used to just have kids share stuff and now we can't.
Okay, you know what my other favorite thing is? Pasta. Like pasta comes in every shape and size. So you can do colorful pasta, or you can do different shapes, and so
The
definitely they
real
should.
pasta.
Yeah. And like I said, because I'm a math manipulative hoarder, I am going to have enough that I can put the kid's name on it and they can stick it in their desk and they're not going to have to share. But not everyone is me. And so I absolutely, you can, because a lot of times in the younger grades, they'll say it's 100th day of school, bring 100 of something. And it's amazing what people find. Why couldn't we do that with the older
Yeah.
grades and say, all right, I need you to bring 100 of something small that can fit in a sandwich bag that we're going to use for math.
Yeah, and it could be cereal. It could be, hopefully not food. Maybe the custodians would probably be like, please, no. But yeah, like buttons or pasta, dried pasta, or yeah, I'm trying to think of like those anything little that they could just bring in, so that they could use it, and it's kind of personal to them. It's from their house. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like, this is my manipulative stuff that I use. For those teachers that are like, oh my goodness, I used to have them share in a team, in a group. What am I going to do now? So I think that might be something for teachers to be thinking of putting on their back to school lists, supply wise, like, hey, I would love for if your kid could come with this, and here's what we're going to use it for. So that way we're not sharing materials.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, great. Okay, so we have kind of some ideas rolling, which is great. So, like, first tell me, how would you use some of these items? And you kind of did it a little bit, but I want you to go in a little deeper, especially with the 3x5 cards, because you got real excited about that, but you didn't tell me much about that. Okay. How do you use them with students both virtually? Let's go virtually
Okay.
first. So, like, you're doing some direct instruction, you're lecturing, you're teaching them how to do something. How would you do that with the 3x5 cards? What would you have them do?
So I love Kim Sutton. And if a lot of people, I'm always surprised that they don't know who Kim Sutton is. She's like a math guru. And actually, Gilbert brought her in last year and she's fantastic. Um, but she has all these things that you can buy and things like that. But as teachers, I don't think that a lot of us have original ideas that have never been thought of before. But we can take things that somebody else does and go, oh, I can do that. She has this great stuff that I was able to get, these cards and these pockets that you can stand up. Great. I was able to get it when I went to the math class. Not everyone can go to her math classes. So why not take those 3x5 cards, cut them in half so you have twice as many, and you're doing rounding. And on one side you put numbers 1 through 9, and on the other side you put zeros, and the kids lay them out. And so then you say, okay, now I'm going to round to the tens place. Well, now they can go, oh, okay, so I leave these numbers alone, the ones that are to the left. Oh, but I can flip these over and now I see. And so you don't have to have something fancy, but something that they can actually sit there and see that, oh, wait, this is going to round up. And oh, I can flip this one. I can grab another card. So you can make your own rounding cards right then and there. You can do, math facts if you need to, if you don't have playing cards. A lot of times I tell the kids, all right, take your math cards and divide them in half. So whether it's 3x5 cards or if it's playing cards, and you're just say, today we're working on threes. Threes is what we're doing in my class right now. So that's what I'm thinking of. All right. Instead of flipping two things over and maybe one's an 8 and one's a 9, and I haven't got to that yet, and then we're just sitting there staring at each other. Okay, we're multiplying everything times 3. So one kid flips his over and they just go back and forth taking turns. But you could also just make your own cards instead of using playing cards out of 3x5 cards. Cut them in half. Now you have twice as many. Put numbers, 0 through 12 on them. And so you could do a lot of different things like that. Of course, my mind is going blank, but
no, I love that. Those are perfect. Those are perfect examples. I mean, I totally I was tracking with you all the way through. I just think that's awesome because I know 3x5 cards are easy to get. And yeah, if you just cut them in half, that's awesome. You can move move them and adjust them. It's kind of like sorting and categorizing, but with math, kind of like you're taking something and putting it over here. Okay, that one's not going to work anymore, so we're going to move it back. Okay, now we're going to choose something new. Okay, now I've got to times that by something else. So I think that's awesome. It's like it's gamifying it for the
Well,
kids.
and you can also, instead of saying, okay, here's a worksheet that has 20 math problems on it. All right, create your own math problem. I want you to put two numbers on the top and I want you to put two numbers on the bottom. You just flip them over randomly. And all of a sudden they think they're playing a game when they're doing exactly the same thing that they would have been doing had you given them a worksheet. Now, mind you, it's a little harder for you because I have to like sometimes like, okay, what is the answer to that? Did that kid get that right? You know, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but they setting up their own problems and things like that. They think it's fun and they think it's exciting to do that. And then they think, oh, we've just played a game. I've had kids before say, and we have been working the whole entire time. Well, we didn't even do any work today. And I'm like, I'm glad that you think so, you know?
That's that teacher, like, yes, like where you pull your arm down and you close your
Absolutely.
eyes and you're like, yes, because that's what you want. I loved it when my students, the bell would ring and they'd be like, oh my goodness, already? And I'm like, ha ha ha, you are engaged. I mean, those are the best times because that's what you want them to do. So virtually, okay, let's say they did a activity where they made up their own problems and they were doing it. Would you have them maybe like take a picture of it and narrate it and then maybe put it on Flipgrid or something so you could see what they did, how what their thinking was? Or how are you kind of having them turn in their work, or are you just kind of letting them experience it? Like, how are you doing that virtually?
I wish I could say, yes, I'm having them do a flip grid. But when you said that, I'm like, that's a great idea. And I haven't done that. I actually,
Girl,
I
it'll be
said
great.
to their parents, these are the things we're doing. Play with your child, have them play with brother or sister. And I always tell them different ways that you could do this game. You could get a brother or sister, or maybe you don't have the computer right near you, but thank goodness for virtual dice and things like that. But um, I haven't so much used it as an assessment as much as these learning number sense is huge for kids. There's so many games that things that they can play that they think, all right, I'm having a great time, but what they're really doing is they're understanding the difference between multiples of two and multiples of three and groups and things like that. And so I really haven't yet used it as an assessment. But when you said Flipgrid, I'm like, why not? That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think I thought of that because my daughter's teacher has her do that, where she will have them do some type of math practice with some manipulatives. And we always tend to use Cheerios because we always have Cheerios. But we do the Cheerios, and she's doing skip counting and like groupings. So she'll be like, okay, make, 5 groups of 3, right? And so she'll have the kids do that. And then, okay, and then that would create how many? And then she has them take a picture of it, put it on Flipgrid, and then they narrate, okay, well, I made 5 groups of 3 Cheerios. And it's so cute because on Flipgrid, you just see like all this random stuff like that parents have just pulled out of nowhere to make these like random groupings.
I love that.
Like, and I think, and then you hear the kids narrate their thoughts, and so as a teacher, you can also comment on Flipgrid, and then kids can also comment on each other. So the teacher actually had them have to watch 2 other peers, and just to check to see if they were correct. And so that was kind of crazy too, because she was like, oh, I have to watch this. Oh yeah, that one was right. And then she could comment and be like, you did awesome. That was great. And it was like such a great
Aww.
community builder for their class. And I thought, oh, that's cool. But as a teacher, you can also narrate back to them on Flipgrid now, and you could talk about, well, I liked the way you used this, and that was really great. And or even, hey, you did this a little bit incorrectly. We need to do this. And I think sometimes when we get negative criticism verbally, they can hear our tone. They can hear that we care that they got it incorrect and that we want them to get it right instead of reading it. I feel like sometimes when we read it, it's like, it's different. But if you hear your teacher, especially you, because you're just like super peppy and excited, which I absolutely love, I think they would take it and go, oh, okay, I'll do that next time. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I love that, and I'm actually going to start using that. So thank you very much.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love it. Okay, so now though, we're going into rows, and okay, so they can't play a. Okay, how do they? All right, so I'm having like my. Can you tell my brain's working? So we've got our dice, we've got our playing cards. We want to play a game, but we're in rows, and we have to be socially distanced as far apart as we possibly can be. We have to speak a little louder because we're talking through masks. We could still play games, right? Like we could still show, like maybe whiteboard it, or something, like hold up a whiteboard to your partner across from you,
Absolutely.
right?
And before we talk about it really quick, Wendy Peterson's mom, Sue, I'm sure you know Sue. One of the first things, I love Sue. One of the first things she taught me was you always need to leave them wanting more. So when I'm playing a game at the beginning of math, it's not a 30-minute game. I mean, we're talking
Right.
6 minutes or something like that, so that they are like into it, they're excited, and then you're like, all right, we got to move on. Well, then they're like, the next time they want to do it again, and so you can change it a little bit. But I absolutely think that you could have 4 kids that are sitting kind of far apart from each other and still can show each other their cards or whatever activity that you're doing. It might take just a little bit longer, but who cares? It is the times that we are in right now. Yeah.
Yeah, and it just may take a little bit more practice until they figure out the new normal. You know what I mean? Um, I love that you said they always leave them wanting more. And I mean, and we know you've got, what do you have? Fifth graders, right?
Fourth grade.
Oh, fourth. So how old are they in
They're
fourth grade?
9 turning 10.
Okay, so 9 and 10. I should know this. I have a second grader. It's what time is it? It's 5:40. This is what teachers do, guys, by the way. They come on podcasts after their teaching hours because they're that amazing. Okay, so they're 9 or 10. So you talk for about 10 minutes, right? Because that's kind of the rule of thumb.
Yeah.
We talk for 10 minutes, we're lecturing, okay, and then now we're going to go and do this math game, which they don't think is a game or whatever, this thing for 6 minutes, and then you bring them back, and now you're teaching again. That's perfect, and that's what we call direct instruction. And I feel like direct instruction gets a really bad rap because they think it's lecture. Well, yeah, you're lecturing, you're teaching your kids, but then they got to do something. And those two things together create the perfect combination for direct instruction, right? Is when you lecture and kids do, and then you lecture more and then kids do. And I love that you said always leave them wanting that a little bit more, cut it a little short so they're like, oh, I want to play that again. That was fun, you know? But that's awesome. I think, trying out any of these, I'm trying to think, okay, so your popsicle sticks, what do you use the big, thick popsicle sticks for?
Okay, and mind you, I do not make a lot of these games up. I found it. And I am embarrassed to say that also my mind went blank at the name of this game, but Kaboom is what it's called. Thank you. I'm thanking myself for remembering. So, I have a bunch of popsicle sticks that maybe are 5s, or maybe they're times 6, or maybe they're times 7s, whatever. They're in a can, and there's a bunch of kabooms in there. And so you're passing them around. They're pulling it out. They're saying the name of it's 7 times 3, 21. They get to keep it. They pass it on. They pass it on. But the next time it comes around, if they get a kaboom, they have to put all their sticks back in. Well, and my kids, oh my gosh, they loved it. Last year, I would have a group of kids, every Friday, a group of kids would get to go down to the principal's office and play against him. I mean, you talk about exciting. Like, that was the greatest thing ever. And so this group would get to go down there, and he hated it because he's like, I hate that game because I lose every time. Because it was totally intense. But was there anything cooler than being able to go to the principal's office? And if you beat him, I mean, life was great.
I mean, some street cred, right? And how awesome of your principal to do that for you. Okay, but so now how do we play Kaboom without touching each other's sticks?
Okay, let's see.
That's the thing we got to think about. Like, can we use Google Slides? I'm trying to think. Do you earn badges? Like, I'm trying to think of ways that we could use, like, okay, those 4 kids are in a shared document.
Yeah.
And you put up a problem on the screen, and then whoever can type it and get it right, you know what I'm saying? Like the fastest or whatever, then they get to keep their problem up, right? And they're all maybe in different colors. Maybe you've colored, I'm yellow, you're blue, whatever, right? And at the end of the game, if there's more yellows than blues, then I won. But if I lose, then all my yellows go away on my Word document.
Okay, you realize that I'm not going to sleep tonight because I'm going to lay in bed tonight thinking how to play Kaboom without touching each other. No, because I love that though.
I'm spitballing right now out of my brain. I don't know if any of this is making sense to you, but I'm thinking for teachers, because Kaboom sounds exciting. It sounds fun and engaging. And it also sounds like kids are learning a lot. And so how can we use and how can we leverage our tech to have them still be collaborative? Because now they're used to it. They're used to collaborative rolling dice. They're used to using maybe Google Slides or, all that kind of stuff. How can we make it where, okay, we're going to play Kaboom now, but we're going to do it this way, and it would have to, it's still on the honor system because the kids are going to be like, no, you got that one wrong. And they're going to erase it for you off your Google document. You know what I mean?
Well, and something came to my mind too. I had created for my class this year, it's called Call Out, and or Beat the Teacher, whatever. And so I have this whole slideshow that just has all of the math facts that we have practiced so far. And so the rule is it goes up on the screen and I count to 3 quietly. If you can call it out before I say the answer, then you get a point. And but I was thinking I could throw some kabooms in my call out game. And so we know whose turn it is. So you can send that out. And so we know whose turn it is. So when they push the button to make the slide go to the next one, it could be Kaboom for them on their.
That would be off. Like how fun. That would be so fun.
Okay, I'm going to work on that. I'm glad you brought that up.
I'm glad you're going to work on it. And I hope that you share it because I'm sure every teacher now is going to want that. And if you don't mind sharing it, I will link it in our show notes for the podcast.
Absolutely.
If you make the game and if it's digital, I'm sure they would love it because I think that's where teachers are going to get stuck. If anything, we're going to want to go back and throw away the tech because we've been with it forever. It feels like, you know what I mean? And we're going to want to go back into the norm and we can't. We've learned too much. We've come too far. And it's not normal. The kids are not in groups of 4. They're not able to share materials. How do they still get to do these fun manipulatives and these fun games together, because I think if your kids transitioned with you and they come back with you and all of a sudden you're playing Kaboom in a different way, but they know that's the game they played before with you. You know what I'm saying? Or they know
absolutely.
That you're playing Call Out, but now you've spun it a little bit. They're going to transition back into the classroom and they'll be like, no, this is my home. Like, this is my teacher. Like,
absolutely.
Even though it was virtual before, and it's fluid because then if you have to go back into, I would hope we would never have to do this, but if COVID spikes and we have to go back home, you can give them that same slideshow and they know how to play because it's a fluid, digital ecosystem that can go back and forth.
And I love that. And that's, I think, what's been hard for me is because so many of these fun games that we play in class are fun games you could play with your family at home. I mean, there's a math game that I play now all the time that my sister learned at a party with a bunch of adults, and I mathify it. And it's like the most fun game ever. And so I want them to take these games home to their homes. And so it's been harder to teach them without being like right there, so that they can play them at home so that they keep going and the learning continues. But I like that. Thank you.
I love that. I think in general, I don't think we play enough games with our kids anymore. I mean, we love to play Yahtzee, and I think Yahtzee's helped my daughter a lot with her math. And we love to play board games, and my husband's like a real board game connoisseur. So some of his are a little bit over our heads. But we play like Ticket to Ride so I would love if a math teacher, instead of sending home a worksheet for homework, said, play this game with your kid. And I would just literally light up because it would be me and that kid time to do something fun that reinforces their learning in an interactive way. Because I think anytime you do something with not only are you working your brain, but you're doing something kinesthetic and visual and movement, it helps kids learn. And I would seriously light up if they like that was on the homework sheet instead of I always get like the my homework page from the textbook, and I'm like, kill me. Like I just, if she just put on there instead, like, here's what we're learning, here's what I would love, here's the rules of the game we've been playing. Don't worry, your kids played it in class. They'll teach you. I'd be like, oh, it's on. I'm so excited.
And I think there are a lot of teachers I know that do that, but not enough that it's making a difference. You know what I'm saying? There are, because I do know some that do, but I love to be able to put, if I have to be gone, and put on my sub plans. They're going to play this game, and not say, oh, the subs there, we're not doing games today. They're going to play this game, and they already know how, and so they know how to get it out. They know how to do it, and so they can take that home and do that as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and that, I think, especially because when they do manipulatives and they're not just, so when they do a worksheet and I'm not saying all worksheets are bad, because there are some really great worksheets out there, but they are looking down, they're not looking up, they're very focused in their own little center. Okay, especially now if they're not even with anybody near them. So they'll be very kind of isolated. I think we owe it to students to give them cooperative learning opportunities at home and at school, through hands-on manipulatives and through hands-on learning, because that also means they're going to be looking up. They're going to be interacting with other kids, which they've missed for a long time. And they're also going to be able to interact with you, and you can give them feedback and assess them. And that would be like the ideal utopia, right?
And don't you think that parents want these things? They just don't know. Like I've been blessed that I can come up with a math game from the back of the classroom to the front. Okay. And there's a lot of teachers out there. I think if you told parents this is what I want to do, they'd
they would
be all
over it. Especially a lot of, I would, I just can't come up with them. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'll find things on Pinterest, or I'll look at stuff online and be like, oh, okay, I'll try to do that. But it's in addition to her math worksheet, because that's got to be turned in the next day. So then I feel like it's like, like I would just rather have it just be the homework, or you know what I mean? Like, or not even the homework, but like, it's so fun that we don't even not only just play it that night, but then we play it on the weekends, or, like that. I would love to see that. I think that would be like super fantastic. I think, and all these ideas, I think a lot of people are going to be, listening to this going, oh, I could do that with this, or I could do this with that. I mean, just like you are now. I mean, I love that your brain's already kind of working, because I feel like that's how I am too. I get it. I see something and I'm like, how can I make this cheaper, easier, right? And then how can I make it more engaging? And I think for math, I think a lot of kids have a negative reaction to math. And I think it's a shame, because there's so much that they could do in that class and in math, all the way through secondary high school. They could gamify math a little bit more and do a little bit more hands-on with math. And I think students' reactions to it would be vastly different.
Well, and after going to not to put a feather in your cap, but I will, because you're amazing. But after going to your sticky notes class, I mean, I can put up envelopes around the room, because I'm cheap when it comes to sticky notes. Okay, I would love to give all the kids sticky notes, but I'm like, oh, I can't do that. But but I give them pieces of paper and I put envelopes around, and then and they have to put their name on their paper, and they walk around and they are doing these problems. Well, all of a sudden I got the problems from a math sheet. I got it from the math book, but now it's this fun activity that they're walking around the room and putting their answers in an envelope, or on a sticky note.
Well, and that's what I did for that class. I just thought, well, how do I make this math sheet fun or interactive? And I just thought, well, if I put envelopes with the math problem, or just maybe even a number on the walls, and they have to go around and slip in, here's a way to solve it, that's going to get them thinking, and they could still do that social distance, as long as they're all social distance with their masks, and you just have one designated writer for the group. They could still all go through and put envelopes in, right? and put their answers in. And then, that could still be an activity where they can discuss. There's one more thing I wanted to talk to you about, and I mean, maybe about, maybe 6 months ago, it seems like forever, but it also seems like yesterday. Vertical learning on their feet with math, and having them get in maybe a hallway, because I feel like our hallways might be the place to kind of get that social distancing. What if we put butcher paper up, and one's the writer and they're solving a problem and they are social distanced, right? But they still can talk to each other and still solve some math, right? While you walk around and do some formative assessment. I think we could still do a lot with our students, even though they're going to be in a new place.
Absolutely. And when the weather gets nice, outside. I mean, there's so many things, and there's just so many things you can do outside. You can, go outside and make math problems. All right. The number of trees times the number of kids in our class or whatever. I mean, things like that where they're apart from each other. Right now it's not delightful, but when it starts getting cooler. But I like that idea of being in the hallway with the butcher paper as well. And it is all about, and a lot of teachers are afraid to let their kids get out of their desks and move around. Well, it gets noisy. Well, you have to understand, first of all, you have to be okay with productive noise, and you have to set the expectation. And then you got to do it again and again. Well, today did not go well. Well, then we don't stop. We do it tomorrow, and we do it the next day, and we set our expectations. And then we just keep doing it until the kids go, oh, this is what's going to happen. And, this is what she wants. This is what she expects. And then,
yeah, and maybe you can do a gallery walk afterwards. Like, how did they solve this problem? Oh, they solved it differently than us. They did this instead. Well, that's interesting. You know what I mean? And they can do it far apart. I love the outside idea. And then I just got like goosebumps when you said that. I mean, what's funny is you could give them problems, send them out with chalk, and then do
yes,
some math,
totally.
on the basketball court. And it's not, I don't know, you'd have to ask your administrators and stuff and your custodial staff, but there's just so many things I think that you just tweak it slightly. You just name it something different. You just make it a little bit more interesting, and kids will buy in, and they'll buy into math, and they'll say like, okay, math is fun. Like, math is something I enjoy doing. And if they can have that positive self-concept about math and who they are as a learner in math, they're going to be able to do a much better in that section and in that course, because they're going to feel good about themselves in that course. If they walk in and say, well, I'm bad at math, my family's bad at math, we've all always been bad at math, they're just going to be bad at math, right? So if they can
Absolutely.
build that self-concept, obviously with the teachers as energetic as you, with some awesome ideas, I don't care if they're borrowed or not. I borrow ideas all the time, because you know what we do with borrowed ideas? We tweak them and we make them fit for our kids and what they need. And that's what we
Absolutely.
do as
Yes.
teachers, because you can't teach somebody else's stuff. You have to take it and go, this is the set of kids I have today, and these are the kids I need to
Hmm.
impact today. So
And this is my personality with those kids too.
totally. Yeah. I mean, I was different from hour to hour, and people wouldn't believe it. My third hour, I had to bring the hammer down. And then a kid from my sixth hour would like sit in the back of the room and come in to make up a test. And they'd be like, this is not how third hour is. And I'm like, well, third hour listens to me or whatever it is, or sixth hour listens to me.
Yeah,
Third hour
absolutely.
is a little bit more squirrely. So I've got to be a little bit more firm and a little bit different. And it kind of freaked my student out. They're like, you're like multi-personality. And I'm like, I'm not, it's still me. It's just the expectations. I have to set boundaries and different limits based on the kids that I have in front of me. So I think that's awesome. Okay, Sharon, oh my gosh, this was fun brainstorming with you. And I love your enthusiasm for math, manipulatives, and just working their minds in a different way. I appreciate you so much coming on. If listeners want to learn more from you, where can they find you online?
Just at sharon.granger at gilbertschools.net.
And girl, I think you need like an Instagram. Like, you just need like a at math something. Like, you need to, and just no pictures of you, just pictures of like your math setups, because I think people would follow that. I would follow that. Like I've just set up,
That's a fun idea.
like just, I mean, just something like something fun, like, um, you have the creativity. I'm not worried about it. You'll name it something amazing, but I would follow that in a heartbeat because even as a parent, I look for fun math activities that aren't just there for like fluff, right? They're there for really deep, rigorous learning that is just masked in this fun way. And so I think if you could lay even those out as we get back into school, I mean, you're going to have kids doing them, you don't even have to have kid faces, right? You just have kid hands. You just take a picture of what they're doing and just comment on it and describe it for people. I think you would have a great outreach there for others too. Something to think about.
Well, thank you. That's a great idea, actually. Thank you very much. And I have loved talking. If you could tell, I'm a little bit passionate about math, but I've loved talking. This has been so fun.
This has been so fun, and I appreciate you coming on today. And it's 6 o'clock, so I know it's dinner time, and we just need to wrap this up. And you know what? Teachers work around the clock, and I appreciate everything you've been doing for your students during this time of remote learning. And I know you're probably super excited, and they're super excited to get back in the classroom. And I'm just thankful. I'm thankful for all teachers, but thank you very much for everything you've been doing for kids.
Thank you so much.
All right, have a great one. Thanks for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Learning Unlocked and finding out more about math manipulatives, our nannies, and some gamification with math. Just a reminder that we are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at GPS Prof Growth. That's at GPS PROF GROWTH. If you've listened today as a GPS educator, you can receive PD recertification credit by visiting our Employee Hub page and navigating to Digital PD on Demand. For more information or resources from this episode, please visit our website at learningunlocked.libsyn.com/website. Libsyn is spelled LIBSYN. Thanks again, key holders. Keep unlocking curiosity, creativity, and innovation within your students and within yourselves. It's so fun to be in this profession where we can release some of that creative energy. See you next time.